And if we are being honest, this is a very tricky situation to be in because there are so many things that come into play. And in this video, I want to try to help shed some light on this subject by giving you reasons why a Christian should not marry a non-Christian. Let me know if you agree with me in the comment section below. Let's get right into it. Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. If you are new here, welcome. On this channel, we discuss everything day to day, anything that will help you grow in your walk with Christ. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our brand new videos. Let's jump right into the first point. The first reason why I believe a Christian should not marry a non-Christian is because of the different worldviews that they have now. What do I mean when I say worldview? Well, let me show you something. Look at this chart. So there's a bunch of different topics going down this line, and each topic has two opposite sides. Where do you stand on these issues, right? Do you think life begins at conception, or do you think life begins at birth? Do you think marriage is between a man and a woman? Do you think the Bible is the Word of God? Do you think Jesus Christ is the Savior? And then, on the other side, you have people who disagree with all those points. So Christians usually fall somewhere on this line. Okay, that's our worldview. We believe that the Bible is true. Jesus saves us, and that's why we are Christians. But someone who doesn't believe in God, their worldview is going to be completely different from ours. They're gonna see eye to eye with us on probably nothing on this list. And this is a huge problem because if both of y'all have opposing worldviews, it's going to cause conflict within your marriage because you both can't be right. So, what do? What do you believe? You're going to have arguments about how to raise children, about finances, about what happens after we die, about what is sin and what is not sin, about what you can watch, what you can listen to. There's just going to be so many problems because you guys are from two completely different worlds. It's like oil and water, guys. You just can't mix them together. They're two different things. Look at the Bible. Look at Proverbs 26:11. It says, like a dog that returns to its vomit is a fool who repeats a sin. Some people, after they hear the truth, after they learn the gospel, they turn away from it and they go back to living however they were living before they knew the Lord. And that is because they never truly believed, because if they truly believed, they would hold on to that truth and they would live by that truth. So the Bible warns us not to yoke up with non-believers because it's an uneven partnership. You can't put two completely different things together and expect them to work out. It doesn't work like that. Two different lifestyles, two different worldviews, you guys are not the same. If you are, you wouldn't be watching this video right now. One of the most heated topics in Christianity today is the subject of a Christian marrying a non-Christian. Some Christians feel strongly that this should never be done, while others don't have a problem with it at all. So why is it that some Christians are so against this idea? And is there any truth to their concerns? Stay tuned and we'll explore that in this video, the reason it happens. Let's face it, many Christians marry non-Christians simply because they fall in love with someone who doesn't share their faith. This can happen for a number of reasons. Perhaps the person was raised in a family with no religious background and didn't meet anyone who shared their faith until later in life. Or maybe they were raised in a different faith and simply don't believe in the same way that you do. Whatever the reason may be, falling in love with someone who doesn't share your faith is something that can happen to anyone. Some people will say that interfaith marriages are wrong because the Bible clearly states that we shouldn't have anything to do with people who don't follow God. However, this passage doesn't say that we shouldn't marry them. It merely warns us to avoid intimate relationships with them. But if we take a closer look at the context, we can see that the passage is talking about sexual immorality, not just intimate relationships. In fact, it goes on to say that if someone who doesn't know God repents of their sins and puts their trust in Jesus Christ, then we should welcome them into the church and fellowship. So what exactly does the Bible say about marrying someone who doesn't share your faith? Well, let's start by looking at Deuteronomy 7:3, which reads, "You shall not marry them. your daughters, for they will turn away the hearts of their children from following me, and they will serve other gods. Then the anger of the Lord will be kindled against you, and he will destroy you. Now it may seem like this verse is saying that we should never marry someone who doesn't share our faith, but if we take a closer look at the context, we can see that it's actually talking about entering into covenant relationship with other nations, not individuals. In fact, the entire chapter is about God's instructions for the nation of Israel as they enter the promised land. He tells them to wipe out all the inhabitants of Canaan, including the people of Jerusalem, because they have turned away from following him and have served other gods. Then it goes on to say that Israel should not make any covenant with the inhabitants of Canaan, otherwise their daughters would turn the hearts of Israel as children away from God and they would end up serving other gods. So this passage is not talking about to people who fall in love and decide to get married. It's talking about an entire nation entering into a covenant with another nation. Next, let's look at Exodus 34-16, which reads, "You shall not allow any person to oppress them, and you shall not accept any bribe, for you shall not corrupt the offspring of Abraham. I am the Lord your God." Once again, this verse may seem like it is saying that we shouldn't marry someone who doesn't share our faith. But if we take a closer look at the context, we can see that it is actually talking about God as people not accepting bribes or gifts in exchange for granting favors to someone else. For example, if someone came to Moses and asked him to grant them a favor in exchange for a gift, then Moses would be breaking the law of God by accepting that gift. Finally, let's look at Nehemiah 13:26, which reads, "They also brought their sons and daughters to pass through the streets of Jerusalem. So the children of Israel saw them and were very angry. They gathered against them and slew of large 700 men with the women and children, and they left none alive." This passage is talking about the Israelites attacking and killing the men, women, and children of a group of people called the Ammonites. This was not an act of love and kindness, but rather a violent and hateful act that resulted in the deaths of hundreds of people. Clearly, these passages are not talking about to people who fall in love and decide to get married. They are talking about much different situations entirely. So, what does the Bible actually say about marrying someone who doesn't share your faith? Well, let's look at Deuteronomy 20-29, which reads, "If a man happen to meet a girl in the field, both of them unmarried, and the man be moved to lust, and have unlawful relations with her, then the man who lay with her shall give her as his wife, having first paid her father 50 pieces of silver." This passage says that if a man has sex with an unmarried woman outside of marriage, then he must marry her and pay her father 50 pieces of silver. What does this have to do with marrying someone who doesn't share your faith, you might ask? Well, think about what would happen if this law was still in effect today. If a Christian man had sex with a non-Christian woman, he would be required by God's own law to marry her. In fact, the only way for him to avoid doing so would be to pay her father 50 pieces of silver, which is obviously not a very attractive option. Now, you may be thinking, wait a minute, that passage is obviously not applicable today since we are no longer under the Mosaic Law. To that, I would say you are absolutely right. However, let's not forget that the New Testament was written under the New Covenant, which was established after the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. And yet, in Matthew 19:4, Jesus says, "Haven't you read that he who made them at the beginning made them male and female, and said, for this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh." Notice that Jesus says at the beginning, which indicates that he is referring to the creation account in Genesis chapter 1. This means that even under the New Covenant, God's original design for marriage remains the same, one man and one woman becoming one flesh. Why marrying outside your faith is a gamble? There are a few reasons why marrying outside your faith can be a gamble. First, if your spouse doesn't share your beliefs, they may not be supportive of your religious practices. This could cause tension in the relationship and make it difficult to maintain your faith. Additionally, if you have children, your spouse may not teach them your faith or may even actively work against it. This could cause your children to reject Christianity altogether. Finally, when you marry someone outside your faith, there is always the risk that they will convert you to their religion. This is especially true if you marry someone who is very devout in their beliefs. In fact, there are many stories of people who have converted to other religions simply because their spouse pressured them into doing so. Therefore, marrying someone outside your faith can be a risky decision that could potentially lead to the loss of your faith and that of your children. The exceptions and not the rule. As we have already seen, the Bible doesn't explicitly forbid Christians from marrying non-Christians. However, it does warn us to avoid close relationships with them due to the potential for spiritual harm. While this doesn't mean that we should never associate with or become friends with non-Christians, it does suggest that we should be cautious when it comes to entering into close relationships with them, especially romantic ones. So what should you do if you find yourself falling in love with someone who doesn't share your faith? Here are 3 things to keep in mind. First, take your time and don't rush into anything. Allow yourself enough time to get to know the person and determine whether or not they are truly right for you. Don't let feelings of love or attraction cloud your judgment. Remember, you can always choose to end a relationship if it's not right for you. Second, be honest with yourself and with them about where you see the relationship going. If you're unsure about your feelings or if you don't see a future together, it's important to communicate that openly and honestly. Don't lead them on if you know that things won't work out in the long run. Finally, keep your relationship in prayer. Ask God for guidance and wisdom as you navigate this situation. Pray for the person you're interested in and ask for their heart to be open to the gospel. Trust that God will lead you in the direction that is best for you and for them. In conclusion, there is no easy answer when it comes to the issue of a Christian marrying a non-Christian. Ultimately, each situation is unique and must be evaluated on its own merits. However, we can learn from the examples of those who have gone before us and heed their warnings. By taking our time, being honest, and keeping our relationship in prayer, we can make the best decision possible for ourselves and those involved. What are your thoughts on this topic? Do you think that a Christian should never marry a non-Christian? Or do you believe that it is possible for 2 people from different faiths to have a successful marriage? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss out on new videos. Thanks for watching.